Hello, today I will talk about ways to help prevent pain while you're running. First, you want to start with your feet. Make sure that you have the proper running shoes, proper support. That can help with everything higher up the chain, your knees, hips, even your lower back. That can help really prevent pain. So first look for the proper shoes. Look for a running shoe, especially if you're running, if you're going to be running longer distances, like anything longer than 2 or 5 kilometers. Look for an actual running shoe. Running shoe is better than a walking shoe, for example, because the running shoe will have all the properties that you're looking for when preventing pain during running. Running shoes will tend to be a little bit lighter than a walking shoe. They'll also have a little bit more cushioning through the midsole, which is this part here. So this part will be softer. In a walking shoe, it might be a little bit stiffer, and that's great for balance, great for keeping you from falling over or basically maintaining your balance. But a running shoe will have that soft material so that it will absorb shock as you're hitting the ground during your running stride. A couple features that are great in running shoes is one, if you look at the very back of the heel here on the inside of the shoe, it tends to be a little bit thicker at the top. And what that does is it helps to keep your Achilles tendon, or right above that heel, that area in place, prevents it from moving around too much, and that can help prevent pain. What it also does is prevents your heel from sliding around too much. Running shoes also have something, it's not really a rocker sole, but it curves up in the front. It might not be stiff to rock your foot forward, but what it does is it helps when you're running. If it's completely flat, it's harder for you to push off during your running stride. So running shoes do have a bit of that curve at the front. It might be a little bit softer, which is fine, but that curve will help you with your running form and prevent pain from developing. Now, with all shoes that I talk about, you do want to make sure that it has the proper support, and that's pushing at the back of the heel. Make sure that it's stiff at the back of the heel as well as through the middle of the shoe. So try and twist it, try and bend it. There shouldn't be a lot of movement through there. If you're comparing it to a walking shoe, it might not be as stiff. There'll be a little bit of flexibility, but you really don't want it bending in half, especially at the heel counter. You want that heel part to be nice and solid. Now, certain running shoes will have a level of support in them, but you might need something extra. So something with a bit of arch support into it. That might be an over-the-counter insert, or it could be custom. An over-the-counter insert might be good if you've never had issues before, you're just trying to get a little bit of support to prevent pain from developing. That's when an over-the-counter might be good, and you could just put it in your running shoe. That's where most of your exercise, most of the impact is happening. So you could just leave it in there if you're trying to prevent anything. If you need something more like a custom foot orthotic, that will give you a little extra features. So if you've had pain before, or if you have a very flat foot or a very high arch and you're trying to correct something or treat some sort of pain, then that's when a custom insert would be a little bit more appropriate. Next, I'll talk about running surfaces. So if you're on a pavement, on a sidewalk, it's a very hard surface. So the shoes that you have should be nice and soft, but over time, the hard surfaces can give you pain over time. So that just, your body's not absorbing the shock as well. It could be going into even your knees. That's a common area where pain develops. So your knees could be taking a little bit more of the impact if you're on harder surface. So if that's the case, try and mix it up a bit. So if you're going to be, if your route's going to be mainly on a sidewalk, you can go onto the grass for a little bit of that. But just be aware that grass is a little bit more uneven. So you want to be more aware when you're placing your foot down so that you don't sprain an ankle. And especially if you're going from one surface to the other, there could be a bit of a drop. So be aware of that as well. Track surfaces tend to be a little bit better. They're a little bit softer. Problem with that is if you're running a very long distance, You might get bored when you're running in a circle over and over and over again, but you might want to do a few laps on a track. If you're running to the track, you run a few laps, maybe go into a grassy area for a bit, gravel, maybe just mix up the surfaces so that you're not always on concrete or your pavement. Even something like a treadmill would be another option where you can mix it up. Treadmills typically have a little bit more shock absorbing to them, so it's a lot better than running on the concrete or pavement. Next would be what you're actually doing for training. So if you've heard of the term too much too soon, so if you do too much too soon, then that can create pain. Your body won't be able to adapt appropriately. So take a look at what you're doing. Don't get into it aggressively right away. Gradually build up your routine, and that should help your body adjust to the change in strain. You can always talk to somebody like a personal trainer if you need a more specific exercise routine to help you increase your routine gradually, but that's typically the way to do it. Don't go too fast too soon. Don't do too much. Don't do too many kilometers or too many miles right at the beginning. Gradually build that up, and then also give yourself enough rest so that you can heal from the week or from the day, and so that your body can do it again the next day. The last one I want to talk about is the proper technique. Now, you can talk about the way you strike down. So if you strike down from the heel, if you strike down forefoot first, so ball of the foot first, or you strike down midfoot, which is the whole foot down. Each one of them give you different shock absorbing qualities. Different muscles are working more or less in each of them. I would say one is probably not better than the other, but it might also depend on the way that your muscles are, and maybe imbalances that you have, or something that you're trying to correct. So if you want to go into more detail about that, someone like a physiotherapist might be the best option. On the same line of physiotherapists, another time to go to them would be for muscle imbalances. So muscle imbalances can cause you to run or even walk a specific way to compensate. So maybe your glutes or muscles around your butt, if they're not working properly, they're not activating as well, then you could be slouched a little bit when you're running. So if those aren't working very well, other muscles would be overcompensating, and it could lead to pain in areas like a knee. You want to also make sure that you're using your arms when you run. So using your arms helps to counter what your legs are doing. So if you stop using your arms, things start to twist. So it could be just your upper body, could even be your hips twisting a little bit more. You could even try it at home. If you put your hands right at your side and try and run down the hall, you'll notice that everything will start to move a little bit more. So make sure you're using your arms, and that will help to counter other things so that you're not moving excessively or using other muscles that you shouldn't be. So those are a few ways that you can prevent pain while running. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out and I'd be happy to help.